All right, 3, 2, 1. Welcome everybody. Hey, this is Al Williamson. I'm going to talk to you about how to run a profitable extended stay rental even during a pandemic. There's some special things, special rules. We can talk about it right now. If I get my mouse working. All right, so you're about to discover how you can use a principle of cash flow to actually make things better for you, to drive cash flow to your bank. Once you understand the principles, then you can exploit them and do more of something and less of other things that don't work to get more cash flow. And how you can dominate a piece of the $550 billion hotel industry. Now, of course, the hotel industry has been suffering under COVID, and that makes it unique for this period of time, and you can craft yourself or position yourself so that you can be the solution to when other people have problems for housing. And a way you can retire in 2 years, we're going to talk about that. And you're going to like this. This is going to be for you if you like consistent, reoccurring passive income, except the booms and the busts. If you like consistent, you're going to like this. And if you're willing to copy successful people, if you like their results, if you copy what they do, you can get the exact same results, absolutely. And if you have a vacancy coming up, now that's for you landlords. If you have a vacancy coming up and you're like, how am I going to fill it? Should I go to the traditional route or should I go with a furnished rental route? This is going to help you make up your mind there. You're not going to like this talk, this discussion at all if you are really, really comfortable, don't like lifting a finger, because this what I'm about to share with you requires work. So, and if you don't enjoy serving people, well, the hospitality industry won't be for you. And if you're looking to get rich quick, this is a wrong spot. I don't know how to do that, so I'm not able to show you. So that's where we are right now. So I am Al Williamson. I used to travel pre-COVID, talk about short-term rentals and sit on discussion panels and talk to people about this field called landlord science, which I look at different technologies to see how landlords can use them and to increase their net income. So I was out and about until COVID hit. This is based on me operating 27 rentals. I'm responsible for keeping those short-term rentals filled, and I've trained over thousands of people at this point. It's been going on for 5 years now. And let's talk about the status of extended stay rentals. You can see when COVID hit, there's different reports came out that says that longer term, the pause on Airbnb, they look to longer term stays for a place of stability. They're looking for stays not 1-2 nights, but 20 to 30 nights. And then here's another investment newsletter called Seeking Alpha. Here's their headline. It says Extended Stay America, which is that hotel that has little kitchenettes in them, is outperforming peers amidst COVID-19 because people want to cook for themselves. They are set up for longer term stays. Extended Stay America serves people staying for 30 days and longer, is outperforming the regular hotels. And here is AirDNA.co. Now, what they do is they take data from Airbnb and they mine it, and they take data from VRBO and other things, and they try and make sense of it to map out a trend. And what they came out and said is how their headline was how midterm stays, these are stays longer than 30 days, may rescue short-term rentals. That's a point in profitability when the market is so sour. And that is how I was able to stay 100% occupied all through the pandemic. I was able to do that by doing longer term stays, which was my specialty. Been doing those for the past 5 years. And I even stopped doing webinars for a while because I was filled and other people were hurting financially, and I didn't want to sound like I was gloating, but I figured I better start talking about it and give people a roadmap. So here's a snapshot of what was going on before COVID. You can raise your rates, and because there was plenty of fish in the sea, you could have a high hook or a high rate. They're willing to pay it because the economy was going nicely. Then after COVID hit, people were scared, the fish, so to speak, uh, dropped for cover. They dove for cover where it's safer because they didn't want to be around there in a storm. And what we noticed is there's less of them because business travelers stopped, vacationers stopped, people going to conventions stopped, and just general travel, recreation travel stopped. Only people who had to travel were left. Now, those people were looking for safety, and they would pass right on by you if you didn't lower your rates. If you thought everything was the way it used to be, they'd pass right by. And that's why a lot of Airbnb hosts and hobbyists went out of business. So what we did, we lowered our hook, we lowered our rates so that we could make a slim profit and get through the spot of the most uncertainty. And that's how we were able to find plenty of customers and stay filled. So that's how we did it. And from that, we learned a whole bunch of things, hard knocks and everything. And I'm just going to show a couple of them with you right now. And one of the problems is even during COVID and after COVID is over, it's going to be easy to make a big gross income with short-term rentals. 1-2 night stays, you can charge a lot per night. But the thing is, it takes up a lot of your time and there's a lot of taxes and it's really sensitive to the economy. But it takes a lot of skill if you want to do it, make a large net income, which means after taxes and after expenses, and you want to do it on a consistent basis, year in and year out, not just be around for 10 months. It takes skill to do that, and that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about some coaching, if you allow me to, and some training, if you allow me to, so that if you're an investor, we can help you do these extended stay rentals or short-term rentals, furnished rentals, more profitably. And that means that you make more money than you would if you were doing regular landlording. And I got 10 secrets to help you do that, just 10. But we're going to talk about 2 of them for the sake of time. And one of them is it's a marketing game. You got to understand how to market on multiple platforms in multiple different ways into multiple audiences if you want to be consistent and make a large net income. Also, you can expand using rental arbitrage, and that's something that I'm going to explain to you and unpack for you. And there's a lot to it. There's a lot to it. We're going to talk about it. Okay, let's talk about secret number 1 is that most people I talk to say they were afraid of vacancies. They didn't want to spend all this money on rugs and artwork and beds and mattress covers just to have the place empty. So they're fearful of that and fearful of what it looks like during a shutdown or a pandemic, and rightfully so, because there's a lot of influence by the government and different agencies saying not to travel. So that leaves only those people that have to travel. It leaves them. So how do you market to them? Well, I came up with a couple of frameworks when I was working with this guy named Adam. He was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, house flipper, was very successful till 2008, and then he got wiped out in the Great Recession. But he bounced back, and he was flipping homes again, and he wanted to make some money between the time he finished flipping a home and had it remodeled, and then when he sold it. So he reached out to me. He said, Al, can you help me turn these into short-term rentals? I need to be able to market them quickly and get them filled up quickly so that I can make some money between the time I have it finished as a flip and before I sell it. So he didn't have, he needed instant marketing. So I told him, yeah, I'm going to help you to do that. So it's an important skill because I'm doing it naturally. Let me figure out how I'm doing it. So I spent like a week of just tucking myself away to come up with this blitz and pivot technique. And what it is, it maps out several different categories for people who need short-term rentals. We got people who want vacation rentals, military housing, corporate housing, student housing. All these people need their own version of furnished rentals. There's people who do insurance, relocations in case there's a flood fire, medical. There's like 3 different flavors of people who need medical housing, temp housing, of course. That's after imagine if you sold your home and you need a place to stay before you move into your new home, you need temporary housing. And international people coming for a couple months at a time, they need furnished rentals as well. So we have all these categories on normal times, but this isn't normal times right now. This is August of 2020. The pandemic is still going, and vacation rentals are not popular. People still don't want to travel unless they have to. And corporate business people aren't not traveling unless they have to. Companies are not sending people out for trainings like they used to. Students tried to come back to the dorms, but they got sent back home, and they have to quarantine different places. And international travel, not right now, not coming to the United States. That leaves these four categories, which is enough for you to flourish in. You know, knowing how to market into these categories gives you a lot of safety. So I'll talk to you about that a little later, exactly how to do that. But the point is knowing these categories, and then the next step is knowing how to market into these categories. And then if one dries up, how to reposition yourself and recalibrate yourself so that you can go after the next category so that you can always flourish. Yeah. Now, while the pandemic was going, people were like really scrambling, and I was trying to help them. So I identified 7 different target audiences I was encouraging people to look for when like no one's traveling, when there's a nationwide state of emergency, not to travel, you can still keep your furnished rental using these 7 categories. One is families that need to isolate, or loved ones that need to isolate. They can live in your furnished rental. Neighbors can keep you filled because they don't want to stay close to their loved ones. If they say there's a frontline worker, they may need to separate themselves and still want to stay close to their family. So that is an example. Or a nursing home. You have a loved one in a nursing home, you want to get them out. You would put them in a furnished rental. Long-term furnished rentals is still good. There's always a market for that. People are always needing long-term furnished rentals. You can position yourself for there. Healthcare workers are traveling like crazy, so they need furnished rentals for like 13 weeks and longer at a time. And people in your network, all you just ask people on your Facebook group if they know anyone staying for a long 30 days and longer, and offer them an incentive. You can definitely get people that way. And their friends, your friends of your friends, is a great network. There's different marketing techniques for that. And hotels, these extended stay hotels have people staying in them. You can absolutely poach one of those and keep yourself filled. So there are those 7 different categories and 7 different audiences. Moving between them can fill your rental really quickly. All you need to do is know the strategy, make sure you're playing chess while other people are playing checkers, and you can keep yourself nice and full. Okay, so he was able to do that. He made $700 a month right off the bat, starting that per rental. And he said, if that's reoccurring income, he can simply just get a few of these furnished rentals and call it quits. So that's what he did. He got 5 of them. He was able to pay for his housing and his food and car and bills. And he wasn't able to live lavish on that, but that was consistent income coming in. And then he still does the side gigs on top of that. So he is doing quite well. He wants you to know that. He's doing quite well traveling again, and he's very happy. Okay. So he's not afraid of vacancies. He knows how to pivot. He knows the strategies. And I'll tell you about that later, exactly how to do that, how to market into those categories. But here's the takeaway, that if you know how to pivot and you're willing to pivot, not stuck in your ways, and stay flexible, you can thrive regardless of what the market, your local market is doing. All right, secret number 2 is about rental arbitrage. And what that is when you rent someone else's property. Okay, you talk to a landlord, and you work with the landlord. There's many different ways to work with the landlord. You can be a regular lease agreement, it could be a joint venture, something along those, could be an option. And then what you do is you put your furniture into their place once you have it under lease. Of course, you tell the landlord what you're going to do. You're planning on using it as a corporate rental. And then you use some of those techniques I shared with you just prior to this in secret number 1. to market the place. You want to market it so that you keep it filled. So if your expenses is $1,000, your goal is to bring in $2,000. Okay. So you bring in 2,000, you pay out in expenses and the landlord 1,000, and you put the remaining money in your pocket. And you do that month after month, and that's how you can generate cash flow without owning property or the maintenance associated with these properties. I like this graph because it really shows you, it was put together by a company called Second Avenue. And it shows you right now, they just did kind of comparison of how much a Airbnb host could earn if they're doing really short stays, 3 to 7 days. For the same house, they could earn $184 a night. Now, if they're doing month-to-month rentals, they wouldn't charge as much. There'd be a discount for every night. Okay, so the discount rate might be $136 per night. And if they're doing longer term stays, unfurnished, well, the discount might be even more because that would be the market rate. And after you take your monthly rent and you divide it by 30 days per month, it might be $98 per month. So I want you to look at these two here. There's a big margin between if I get something on long term and I put furniture in it and I rent it out on a month-to-month basis, there's this good spread. I said, okay, if it's a month-to-month thing, I can charge $136 per night. And if it's just a long-term unfurnished, I could charge $98 per night. That's a $38 difference per night. Now, if I multiply that by 30 days in a month, that means I can make $1,140 I stand to make in this example. Well, that is pretty good income. That's much more than a regular landlord earns. Absolutely. So there's this margin between regular rentals and something that can work like a hotel. It's much more expensive to stay at a hotel for 30 days than it is to stay at a typical rental for 30 days. Okay, so that's something to know. And that's what Rochelle did. She reached out to me. She needed cash flow. She's a fun-loving gal. Needed cash flow to cover to help pay for some children that were going to be left behind after her best friend died. So she wanted cash flow. She wanted it consistently, and she didn't want to play any games with this because she had responsibilities. So, and she wanted to reach out to business travelers who are my focus. And she got my course, and I helped her with the worksheets and all the details to figure out how to position herself so that she was in the well located in a place that had lots of demand. So she was able to rent this place from the landlord. He agreed to let her turn it into a corporate rental, and she furnished it. She stayed to my checklist. She didn't go and get extra expensive stuff. She stayed and kept it affordable. And that's really important because people often buy the wrong stuff. I have a resource to help you buy the right stuff with your budget. You want to spend it in a prioritized way. And she was really working on keeping her startup costs down, and that's what she did, using her insider knowledge about where things were and how to position herself in the best place. And also who was coming to town. All that insider knowledge, she was able to secure a guy who's doing a transportation project for 10 months. And she let him know that she knew what his housing allowance was. So she was able to negotiate with that so that he had a big savings. He didn't have to spend his full budget, and that she could be paid nicely. And she makes a net income of $900 a month, which is really, really good for property that she doesn't own. And the numbers go like this. Her client pays her $2,100. He makes about his housing allowance. He's given about $3,000 a month, and he pays her $2,100. So he's happy because he pockets $900 himself, and she pays the landlord $850. The landlord's happy. He's got money at the first of each month, and utilities and lawn care, a little bit of renter's insurance, and Wi-Fi, of course. You got to have that. $350 of expenses. That's how we got $900 of net income per month, and that's great. Just simple math. That's how it works. That's a really good spread. In fact, she makes more net income than the landlord does. That's what's amazing. That's often the case because the landlord makes $850, but he has to pay taxes and mortgage and other things out of that. That's what's interesting about that. It costs her about $4,100 to set up. She's really watching her startup costs. And remember, she makes $900 a month of income, so she actually breaks even in 4.5 months. So she gets all her money back and in 4.5 months, and the rest is profit. So that's really why it's important not to spend a lot of money on startup costs. You get to your place where you're making a profit, and then you can add on to things. But the whole goal is to um, make a nice margin, make a profit. So that's how you do it. So it's like 120% return on her investment, which is amazing. So much so that, as I was telling her, she didn't have to use her own money because the rate of return on doing this is so incredibly good. Because as long, and you're in a point of safety, as long as it costs more to stay at a hotel for 30 days than it does to stay at a unfurnished rental for 30 days, that means there's lots of profit to be made. Lots of profit to be made. The goal is this is the case here. You can't charge the same amount. This is the profit difference, the difference in profitability. And you can see we use these techniques, marketing and rental arbitrage. We can capture quite a bit of this difference in profit, but you don't want to go all the way. There's got to be a savings for the client. As long as you can do it, rental arbitrage, and there's a savings for the client, they'll always come to you if you give them a good value. And that's how this whole thing runs. That's the engine, is to make sure you have a margin right there. Okay. Now let's skip questions for right now. I just want to point out to you this one thing, this question: what if you fail? What if you try this and you fail? Well, there's a whole bunch of safety nets underneath you. You can always, if you're doing rental arbitrage, you can always just take your furniture out and rent it as a regular long-term rental until your lease is up, and then walk away unharmed. So, and then you can sell off your stuff on Craigslist. You get all your money back. So there's a lot of safety in this, much more safe than if you bought something and had to come up with a down payment. But here's the next question. What if you don't try? What if you think you can't do it, or you um, don't have the skills to do it, and this you're in a situation where there's hotels, extended stay hotels all around you, and you don't even try, and that means you're almost destined to live like you're living now for the next few years if you don't try. I'm here to help you um, do this safely and make sure it works. So you definitely should try. And, make a difference. Now, if you're serious, I have a coaching and training program for you. It's called Extended Stays for Landlords. It has some things in there that helps you be successful, make sure that you're successful. Let me share that with you. It's made up of 6 steps, and those steps are to do an overview kind of your market, learn how to do that, be able to understand which hotels are around you and what those brands mean. Because if they're around you, a certain brand is around you, you want to know, that tells you what kind of clients come. Okay, that's your market research and how much money you can make based on that. That's what we did for Rochelle. We helped her understand that there's tourists and there's these business travelers, and the tourists come with all the headaches and the parties. So let's not deal with them. Let's set ourselves up for travelers. And in this case, where we are now, where there's very few travelers, we got to set ourselves up for people in that 7 audiences that need housing regardless of COVID or not. Okay, they need a furnished rental. Then step 2 is how to discover your market's potential. We do a lot of videos on that. how to read the tree leaves so that you um, set up you don't set up a high-end furnished rental in an area that can't afford it. You want to set up the right thing to get the right client for your area. And we spend a lot of time on furnishings so that you don't make those mistakes. That can really sink you. If you spend too much on furnishings, then it takes you a long time to break even to recover your startup costs. And you're really not making any money until you start to recover your startup costs. So that's why I hammer that home so hard. I give you a checklist so that you can understand why I recommend some things and which things have more priority than other things, like a sleeping environment. The bed is more important than the artwork. So you, you want to buy artwork and doodads last. And I have a full breakdown there. The checklist is so that you can just order everything off of Amazon if you choose, or you can pick it up for free, but at least you know the items that have held up and that I recommend. Step 4 is learning how to market specifically for extended stays, and specifically in ways that don't rely on Airbnb, because you want to be independent, you want to be a business owner. So every one of these categories I show you how to market into. So you can do that directly, and I give you a checklist to make sure you're marketing into them correctly. And then I teach you about the 7 audiences, how to attract them. There's really 7 audiences in each one of these categories. So there's really, what is this, 1, 2, 3, 8 times 7, there's 56 different opportunities. So you will always stay filled, okay? And then how to transition. If you're doing short-term stays now, and you want to transition out of that into longer term stays, I tell you about that, because you can make this good money being a CEO, but you're still busy. And if you create a system so that you can do extended stays that don't require nearly as much work, well, you can make the same money. You sure can. You can grow your scale. You can make the same money, but you own a system instead of a job, and I think that's what all of us want. So I talked to you about longer term people, like travel nurses, and what they want, how you should furnish a place for them, how to find them, and how to price yourself. I give you all those guidance and breakdowns for that. And then rental arbitrage, everything you need to know about all the scripts and what to say to the landlords, what to say to the tenants, a worksheet so that you, just like Rochelle used, so that she can get a rental in the right location at the right price, and checklists so that you don't make any mistakes, because that's where you can waste a lot of time not knowing what to do next, or missing a step. Yeah, if you miss a step, it could be fatal or to your financial budget and mess the whole thing up and make it all not worthwhile. So that's important. That's a $1,597 value for that particular thing. But I gotta have more things for you because I want to make sure you're successful. I don't want you just to do this and start off and then find out that there's so many details that you can't do it. We offer group coaching, so I'm in there every day sharing with you what I learned or what's going on with my business and what's new. And you also hear from other people. Now, groups are important, especially if you're trying to do something. They make the difference between success and failure oftentimes. If you try to ever go for a goal on your own and you didn't make it, it's probably because you didn't have a support group. Probably is. So giving you a support group is really tips the scale in your favor. And you get unlimited email support from me right on top of that, so you can ask me whatever you need. I'm right there for you. And I have something called Ninja Training, which is one-on-one time, just you and me going over your situation, whatever you need. Okay, that's the goal. If you need to be able to raise funds, if you're tight on funds, I help you with that. And if you need to figure out how you're going to organize all your rentals, I show you my systems that I use and how I work with my virtual assistant to do that. How to navigate rent control or whatever it is. I've been doing this for a while, watching it all over the country and helping people. So this is a $3,000 value because definitely can help you raise way more than that per year. So that's why it's so valuable. Um, so Ninja Training, $3,000. Altogether, is a value of $9,997. But of course, I'm not going to charge you that. I want you to be able to do this and do it successfully. So even though absolutely no qualms about it, it's worth $9,997. But I'm going to give you something special. I'm going to give you it for $1,297. Okay, and I'm going to give you that with a guarantee as well, 30 days to look it over. So there is no issue with that. So you go to extendedstaylandlord.com to pick it up, and you're going to see a form that looks like that where you can click and enroll, or you can read through. You can read about the syllabus, the curriculum, what's all the details, and even preview a couple of courses to kind of get the feel for how they look. Okay, and again, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee, so no questions asked from me. So again, what you get is you get all the steps. So 6 steps is all you need. And then I throw group coaching and unlimited email support and Ninja Training on top of that. And then 10 resources. It's up to 11 now. I keep creating different resources. When someone says they need something that's not in the course, I create a resource and I throw it in there just so everyone has it. Sample lease agreements and things like that, addendums, all the stuff that I use in my own business to make sure things happen. So you're absolutely covered. This is everything that you need to be financially free. All right. So if you have any questions, you can go to extendedstaylandlord.com, extendedstaylandlord.com, and email me, al@leadinglandlord.com, if you have any questions. All right.